I'll tell you a little bit about my story and who I am. I'm a fashion photographer based in New York City. I've worked for lots of different magazines in New York. I've worked for Elle and for Marie Claire and for Interview and for GQ, and got to work with some really beautiful people. My studio's in New York, but I also lived in Milan for about 8 years and worked in Paris as well, and worked for the house of Yves Saint Laurent. I also did portraiture as well. I'll go back, skip that show, but we'll go back. So we did lots of different, I worked for lots of different magazines, lots of great clients, but I was always told every single day who was beautiful. I was forced to work within certain parameters of the beauty standard. I was told, this is the most amazing model of the moment, you've got to photograph her, she's incredible, and you got to, and then the next season it would change again, and I'd have to shift my ideas of beauty and go to the next model, and it was kind of really crazy because I'm an artist. I saw beauty everywhere. I didn't see beauty just on a magazine cover. I did a shoot with, of course, Cindy for Revlon, and really fantastic, beautiful people. But I thought, well, but someone's always telling me who's beautiful. And it was kind of frustrating. I left my studio one afternoon in New York, and I was walking down Park Avenue, and I saw waiting for a bus at the corner of Park and 20th, this gorgeous kid. She had long, white, beautiful hair, pale skin. She had a genetic condition called albinism. I didn't know much about it, but she was stunning, and I had never met a model like this before. And I went to grab her and said, I have to take your photograph, you're amazing. And the bus came, she got on, and she took off, and I was really glad because she was 12, and I'd be in prison at the moment. But it was extraordinary to see this kid. So I continued right down to Union Square, to huge Barnes & Noble, started pulling any books or any information I could about this genetic condition, albinism. And I found really kind of sad images. I didn't find images of this kid. I found images of people sitting in hospital beds, looking sad, looking downtrodden, looking just images of despair. I found images of a bright red eye, the albino eye. I'm thinking, this kid had beautiful blue eyes. She didn't have red eyes. And then I started seeing images from Africa where kids were surrounded by tribes pointing spears at them, or in cancer wards and clinics where they're just in beds, and images of illness, of sadness, of sickness. And then I started, of course, going through those same medical textbooks and started finding these typical images of kids and adults in their underwear against walls in doctors' offices with the black bar across their eyes saying, disease. This is a disease, defined by a disease. I was like, this is crazy. And then I started going into further, looking at the internet and all these different medical textbooks, and everything was so sad and so negative. I then started finding images of the albino freak family in the circus, and then, of course, all the movie references from Powder, who had albinism because his mother was struck by lightning, to the Princess Bride, and to the Matrix Reloaded. There were the ghost-like twins that came in and wreaked havoc and destroyed things and then disappeared. Even most recently, the Da Vinci Code, where it was the evil albino driving around Paris at night, killing people, shooting at people. Well, I found out through my research that people with albinism have a visual impairment. There's always vision, but they're considered legally blind. So they certainly wouldn't be driving around Paris at night shooting at anybody and expect to hit anything. So I'm thinking, this is crazy. So I contact NOAA. Now, NOAA is the National Organization for Albinism and Hypopigmentation. It's a support group for people living with this condition and their families. And I'm like, hey, I'm a fashion photographer. Let's show the world the beauty of albinism. And they said, get lost. And I'm pretty persistent. Like, what are you talking to me? And they made it very clear to me about their fears of exploitation. That every time there was a magazine article that came out about a kid with albinism, it was a story about a victim. It was sad, or it was exploitative, or sensational, never positive, always negative. And I said, okay, well then what do we do here? I said, so let's form a non-traditional partnership. Fashion photographer, genetic support group, and we'll work together, and you can keep an eye on me to make sure that we create something positive and powerful, showing the world the beauty of albinism. And they said, okay. And I was like, fantastic, let's do this. So in walks the first person I'm about to photograph. Her name is Christine, and Christine is a knockout. Long white hair, really tall. She's stunning. She walks into my studio. The only way that she walks in, though, instead of this gorgeous girl, she walks in like this. Her head's down, shoulders hunched, one-word answers. She looks with no eye contact. This kid has been teased her whole life because of her difference. And it was so apparent on the fact that it left her with zero self-esteem. And I'm thinking, oh, this kid is so She's just so fragile. And just the day before, I was shooting Cindy on the same set in my studio. I'm thinking, well, I have to be so careful. I thought, no. Out of respect for this gorgeous kid, I'm going to photograph her like I would anybody else. So the fan went on, the music went on, and I grabbed a mirror that was next to the set, and I held it up to her, and I said, Christina, look at yourself. You're magnificent. And she looked in the mirror, and she got it. And she went from this to that. And that's our Christina. She just exploded in front of the set. When she was by the time she left the studio, she was kissing everybody on both cheeks and saying ciao, and she was unbelievable. And I saw this transformation right in front of the lens through photography, that she was now transformed with a powerful and positive sense of who she is. The next day she goes to school, she's going to change the way her community sees her difference. Instead of walking into that classroom like this, she's walking in like this. So it's all about ambassadors for change. It was extraordinary. And those first images, right after we did a series of images, and several individuals with this syndrome had this condition, was in Life. They were in Life magazine in 1998, so it was a while ago. It was a cover story. It was a 5-page spread. It was really a fantastic editorial. It was great. I loved it. Then we used a lot of the images, though, from Life, to put them in other magazines worldwide, magazines in the UK, in France, in Italy, Canada, and other magazines in the States. It was amazing. So it's from the UK, Christina again. Friends Jen and Ruthie are sisters, and Kristen. That's Lauren. We did a campaign for sunglasses. A lot of kids with this condition are photophobic, so they have a real strong light sensitivity. So we thought perfect for an sunglass campaign. People magazine did a great story. So it was circulating things where people were saying all this great stuff. It was fantastic. So I was getting calls from the UK saying, well, we just sold this spread. Can you come and photograph our kids with this condition? Can you come? We have a support group here. Can you come and meet our families? People in Africa were calling in the same. New Zealand, can you help us start a support group? I'm like, fantastic. This is great. Let's do it. So I would travel all these places, and as I was shooting and doing my commercial work, I was at a local chapter conference in Philadelphia, small family conference, about 40 families, did my presentation of kids with albinism. This mom came up to me and she said, my son Randy, when he was a little boy, he'd come home from school and I could see the kids were teasing him and he'd be in tears. And I'd buy him an ice cream cone or a toy truck, and he'd forget about it. She said, now he's in high school, he comes home from school, I could see the pain, the anguish in his eyes. He walks in, walks right past me, goes up to his room, slams the door, and I don't see him until the next day. She said, he's not going to want to be photographed. He has zero self-esteem. This kid has such poor body image, and he's just so shy. But if you could just show him photographs of kids his own age, so that he knows he's not alone. I'm like, of course. Where is he? Show me. She points over to Randy. Now, Randy's sitting there. His pants are hanging down to here. His underwear's hanging out. He has this long, great big shirt. He has 10 earrings. He has a tattoo. He's amazing, this kid. I crawl over to Randy. I'm like, Randy. I speak to moms and dads every single day, terrified about the future of their kids with albinism. All they have to do is take one look at you, and they're going to be fine. Please let me take your photo. Your mother said, she told me that you didn't want to be photographed. He's like, wait, he said, Rick, what do you mean? I said, Rick, you have to understand, I'm 16 years old. I don't talk to my mother. And then he said, I want to be photographed. I want to show the world who I am with my albinism, but also other things about me. You can see how shy he was. Very, very shy, Randy. But Randy created early days in this idea of this nonprofit group, Positive Exposure, the idea of networking stories, sharing experiences and the images around the world. I'll kind of quickly go through albinism. So I was very interested at that point getting calls from everybody in the world to find out more about this idea, a message about albinism or perceptions of people in communities about this syndrome albinism. So I started hearing about stigmas and discrimination. And what I looked at is really trying to explore cultural perceptions and attitudes towards this condition. This is my friend Gladys Mira, who's a Kuna Indian in the San Blas region of the world, the San Blas region of Panama. She's extraordinary. So the incidence of albinism is about 1 in 20,000 worldwide. In the Kuna Indian, it's 1 in 125, the highest incidence in the world. We went to Fiji, actually, where we found out at the turn of the 19th century, a tribe could not hold their territory. Let's say it's somebody with albinism in a powerful political position. And Keke, my great friend Keke, I photographed in New Zealand. She's from India, from Delhi, but her family left Delhi because she was getting death threats. Now, I'm thinking, this is horrible. They had to move because she's 8 years old. And we actually started a support group in Delhi and found out that there are many kids that we worked with in their communities after we started this group in India that have had really positive experiences. So one of the things that we want to make very clear is that we're not making generalizations about a community or a culture and their reaction to people that are different. Keke's experiences were very different, but we met many kids there that have been embraced by their communities throughout India. Great friend Suwana from Korea. Tom, who was just adopted by an American family from China. It's my great friend Harry from Puerto Rico. Natalia, she and I started the first albinism society in Russia. Maizan and her sister and mom in Malaysia. Kiara, all she ever wanted to do was be a dancer. She was told that because of her visual impairment, she'll never dance. She'll never be able to follow the choreography or the dance steps. Never. She's like, but she's like, they said, find another love, another passion. She's like, no. She's New Zealand's Celtic dance champion and just started a school for dance for kids with visual impairment. My grandmother zipped through this. Roz from Australia. I spent a lot of time in Africa, where there's a high incidence of mortality associated with albinism due to skin cancer. So my friend Siri, who when she was born, the father's family put her out of the house thinking she was cursed. Put her out of the house, and mom, not knowing what to do, put Siri in the sun to get her dark like her brothers and sisters. So you can say it's all sun damage. This is a great friend. A lot of kids that I met throughout Africa were put in schools, special schools, schools for the blind, not because of the tools were better there for kids with visual impairment, but more importantly, because the teasing was so great, the discrimination is so great, these kids don't do well in mainstream schools. I started an albinism society in Kenya with my friend CK, who actually went to a mainstream school. I'm like, CK, how's it possible you went to a mainstream school? Nobody in Africa goes to mainstream schools. She said, it's because of my twin sister, Daphne. Like, fantastic. She said, yeah, Daphne would get all the work off the board, the things I couldn't see. She'd help me with it. When the type was too small, she'd blow it up for me. She said, but more importantly, when kids would tease me, Daphne would beat them up. On a sadder note, I'm spending a lot of time in Tanzania where witch doctors are saying, bring me the bones of an albino and I'll make a potion that will make you rich. So we're working very closely with the government there. They've been there 6 times in the last 2 years to really kind of create programs, public awareness programs to save these kids. I'll kind of go quickly through these. I received the dancer. This is in the Shinyanga region. These are one of the visuals that we created in Africa, in East Africa, trying to fight and kind of educate the public. This is actually, I received the Art of Reporting Award from an organization called the Chromosome 18 Registry. And it was actually the larger organization, was the Genetic Alliance, which was a coalition of all the genetic support groups, and it was the award for the Life magazine piece. The president at the time said, I'm also the founder and director of this Chromosome 18 Research Society at Registry. I'm like, fantastic, that's great, what's that mean? She's like, well, if you have an anomaly on your 18th chromosome, then you have all kinds of problems and difficulties and challenges, and then we look after you. Through this support group, like Noah is. So I'm like, great. She's like, well, she said, I see there's a universal message here about all kids with differences, so it's not just about albinism. Would you come and speak to our families in San Antonio with these chromosome 18 anomalies? I'm like, sure. I went back to thinking, what the hell is a chromosome 18 anomaly? I was an art major at the School of Visual Arts. I had no idea. When I looked it up, these are the images that I saw. I'm thinking, albinism was so easy, this is going to be rough. But I went, San Antonio, walked down to the auditorium where the kids and young adults were, opened the door, and I was instantly surrounded by kids screaming with laughter. There were kids with cleft palates, kids with mobility issues, feeding tubes, trachs, but they were kids first and foremost. That's Rebecca and Pauline, my great friend. That's Ellington. He's awesome. Remy. It's Emery. Byra. Taylor. Elizabeth. These are just some of and my great friend Sean. So we decided at that point to involve other organizations and be part of this larger exhibition that was going to be sent out at from the People's Genome Celebration in 2001. They invited me to the National Human Genome Research Institute and the Genetic Alliance, invited me to create an exhibition at the Smithsonian commemorating the mapping of the human genome. So we actually invited other genetic support groups to be part of this exhibition, not just on albinism, but all groups, again, illustrating the universal applicability. I saw these images from the Marfan Foundation. These kids grow very, very tall, at risk of an aortic dissection, but they're amazing kids. And I thought, how gorgeous. And I understood the importance of of this image, how important it was to show how beautiful, to show how the image presents itself. But isn't there another way to show it? Because nobody, and I photograph thousands of kids now with Marfan syndrome, and nobody stands like this with a portable black bar. It's extraordinary. So we decided to put them in a pool, show Billy swimming, show how it presents itself, but keep going and keep presenting how these kids look, but putting humanity back in these gorgeous images. Well, I only have a few seconds here, so I'm going to kind of go through Cool Girls at the Costello Conference. These are great friends of Danielle and Maggie, who actually met at the last Costello Conference. They both, first time they ever met anybody with the same syndrome, and they go to the same conferences every year, and I go and photograph them. And this year they were there again in Florida, but this time it's a little different. They have they're gangsters now, but they're pretty amazing kids. I just want to quickly go and talk very briefly about this really great kid. These are just, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was going to go on. It's so But I just want to talk very briefly about a project that we're taking these images and bringing them into high schools. I can photograph a great kid in my studio, and she's having a brilliant time, and she feels up 10,000 feet tall. By the time she leaves my studio and gets to Park Avenue, 5 people point at her birthmark, or her white hair, or her wheelchair. So we have to make it relevant for all of us, for all these kids, to make people understand what the idea of celebrating diversity actually means. So we started a project called the Pearls Project, where these photographs are going into high schools, and the kids that are in the images are blogging, and the students are following their blogs. And they all have these great video intros. I'm just going to give you this last one. And this is actually Byron, who is actually one of our bloggers.
Hi, my name is Byron. I live in the D.C. area. I'm 14. When I was 10 months old, I had a left hemispherectomy. I had the left half of my brain removed because I have something called Sturge-Weber syndrome. I wear a brace on my right leg and right arm. I only see out of the right side of each eye, so sometimes it's harder for me to see things on the right side. So playing sports can be frustrating because I might not see a ball coming. I didn't see that coming either.
So these are the images. So we're using all the visual arts to change public perceptions towards these great kids. I feel as an artist, it's my responsibility to. I know that when I was a kid and I saw someone that was different walking down the street, if I stared, I got slapped by my mom. So the idea was either if you don't stare, look away. And I think as an artist, it's my responsibility and all of our responsibilities to steady that gaze a little bit longer to really see. Because you stand there, you'll see difference. You'll start seeing beauty in that difference, and you'll start seeing beautiful gorgeousness, and then this light just spreads, and once you're enlightened, it changes your whole world. It's about seeing the beauty in all differences. Thank you so much, and sorry I ran over. Thank you, guys.